All right, everyone. So I think we've waited enough for people to join. Thanks for getting started with us early. Welcome to MachineMetrics webinar series on workflows and enabling factory floor automation. I'm Justin Garland. I'll be your moderator today. And today we'll be going through some of the ways that workflows can enable and optimize shop floor automation for you. Joining us today will be a fantastic group of panelists from MachineMetrics. First, we'll have Jacob Lozier, our co-founder and CTO, Paul Richards, our software engineer, and Colin McClarty, our customer success engineer. Afternoon, guys. Thanks for joining.
Excited for the conversation.
So to go through our agenda, first we'll start with an introduction to MachineMetrics and tell you what we're all about here. Then Jacob will review why workflows matter, what's the importance there. Then we'll jump into some of the top workflows that are used in the field by manufacturers today. And finally, we'll follow up with a Q&A session at the end. Just some housekeeping items before we get started. The webinar is being recorded, and we'll send out a link for the webinar to access following the series today. We do welcome questions, so please use the Q&A feature in the Zoom navigation, and feel free to ask questions at any time. Know that if we're not able to address the question immediately, we will be following up to address those following today's webinar. So first, I'll start with a bit about MachineMetrics. So for manufacturers, it's never been more important to deliver the best product faster than ever. Continuous improvement in manufacturing starts with capturing insights from your operations, specifically your machine assets and people. MachineMetrics Industrial IoT Platform has automated machine data collection and production analytics to deliver data-driven insights in a matter of minutes. Manufacturing today is consumed by manual processes that lead to inefficiencies. This is evident in the MachineMetrics benchmarking report that states the average machine utilization rate is less than 30%. So is industrial IoT or Industry 4.0 the silver bullet? Well, the reality is that most IoT implementations fail. Up to 81% according to a McKinsey study that was conducted just this year. The reasons for this high failure rate is due to the complexities of connecting such diverse equipment, often with years of custom development and integration required before even obtaining any initial value. For the digital factory to reach scale, this needs to be easier. Automated manufacturing equipment and the skilled people who operate it make up the beating heart of any manufacturing operation. They represent the largest capital expenditures. These machines are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars and produce more data than any other industry. Yet this data is not being captured or analyzed to improve efficiency, despite all the innovations in robotics and automation. So this is why we built MachineMetrics, manufacturing's first industrial IoT platform for machines. We make it very easy to capture and transform data from machines and make that data actionable. We do that through increased visibility, predictive analytics, configurable workflows that automate manufacturing processes around the machine. Our team, based out of Massachusetts, came together in 2015 to transform manufacturing. Over the past 5 years, we've connected thousands of machines across hundreds of worldwide customers in discrete manufacturing industries. Some of those include medical device manufacturing, automotive, aerospace and defense, oil and gas, industrial components, and heavy industries. And those companies range from small mom and pop machine shops to global OEMs. As the machine data component of the digital factory, MachineMetrics is powering the manufacturing digital thread. We're connecting the other best of breed systems, providing real-time data throughout the entire product lifecycle. This is what we call the operating system of the autonomous factory, and we're just getting started. Once you're able to harness the machine data digital thread, opportunities for automation are endless. Our launch of MachineMetrics Workflows is a remarkable step forward in enabling flexible actionability on this data. Now, Jacob will explain what this progress represents, and then we'll explore some of the top workflows that benefit manufacturers. Jacob?
Thanks, Justin. So many of our customers, and I'm sure this is the case across the industry, have a number of incredible tools that they currently use. And MachineMetrics can be another one of those tools. But the real way to make all this work is to have those software systems talk to each other and communicate. And that's really what Workflows enables. It allows for you to connect these best of breed systems, ERPs, CMMS systems, and many others, quality tools and systems, connect them together around a single source of truth. And MachineMetrics, as that operating system for the autonomous factory, enables that. And one of the ways that that happens is through Workflows. Many different systems have a large amount of data, and machine data is a little unique because it can't lie. It is what the machine did. And so we can use that source of truth to power different systems and make a lot of the manual processes that go into getting data from one place to another automated. So we can automate that data transfer. And there's a lot of processes that are built into your organization that are based on knowledge that's grown over time. And you have these experts in the system, in your organization, that know how to improve your process. But capturing that as part of your organization, as part of your tool set, is something that you need to do as well, so that when that really talented person on your team moves on, retires, or whatever, you've captured their knowledge and are able to improve the efficiency of your entire organization. And some examples that we'll go through today are great ways to leverage Workflows with no code or very little code to connect machine data into other applications. Justin.
Help if I was off mute, huh? So now that you guys have an understanding of why MachineMetrics workflows matter, we'll go through the various ways our clients are leveraging the built-in application to create automation on the factory floor. We'll provide examples of how workflows are used to save time, increase productivity, and positively impact capacity. First, we'll talk about addressing one of the biggest challenges that still plagues manufacturing world today. Even in this time of hyperconnectivity, it's breakdown in communication. In many manufacturing environments, it can be difficult for production staff to meet expectations, even when things are going according to plan. Now throw a few curveballs in there, maybe some unforeseen disruptions, and those performance expectations might need to be recalibrated. So if the system of response communication is not effective, then that staff really cannot truly take ownership of performance, right? So MachineMetrics workflows provide an extremely simple and user-friendly communication system that gives the operator a voice when they request a call for help and immediately notifies designated personnel of what action is required. So knowing is half the battle, right? So you can use various methods of notifications like alerts and dashboards to drive that action. Communication rules can be established also to escalate to higher levels if the issues become critical or result in a prolonged disruption of performance. And from what you might learn tracking downtime trends with MachineMetrics, You may decide to implement continuous improvement workflows targeted at streamlining operations. This tool makes it extremely easy to implement those new process workflows. So now what I'll do is I'll give you an example using MachineMetrics where you could drive communication. And the example we use today is if there's a need for material at a machine. So the workflows application is built right into our IoT platform. It's found under the health menu by navigating to the workflows and navigations. It's as simple as creating a new workflow, giving it a name, indicating which machine you want that workflow associated with. You can have it either on a particular machine or apply to all of them. And then you're going to determine what the trigger is for that workflow. In this case, since we're using downtime categorization to drive that communication, we'll select that as the event trigger. Then we'll go in, and since we're focused on material handling and trying to drive communication around that, we'll select that downtime reason. But you do have the flexibility to drive communication around any downtime category that's selected at the operator interface. And I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. In terms of adding actions, we can select a notification. And if it's something that we want to give the shop floor an opportunity to address within a short window of time, we can do that within a time limit. So if I wanted to indicate a 10-minute window, I can do that. And then we can identify who we want to send that notification to. If we wanted to add cascading or escalated notifications, we have the ability to do that. And then we can also establish certain rules for when those notifications will happen. And that can be done on the profile settings within the system parameters. So what happens is once this workflow is established, anytime that an operator comes in and categorizes a downtime event as no material, now the designated party will be receiving either a text or an email, depending on the preferences, and action will be driven around that downtime event. For the next example, Paul will be presenting how you can use real-time webhooks to drive action around unplanned and scheduled maintenance events. We know those are leading contributors to downtime. Paul, I'll let you share your screen now.
Great, everyone see my screen okay?
Yep.
Thanks, Justin. And hi, everybody. I'm Paul. I'm a software engineer here at MachineMetrics, and I'll be showing you guys a live demo of just one of many possible workflows here. So we're back at our list of workflows here. We're going to take a look at one in particular, and it's going to be just to give you guys a little feel of the composability of these workflows. And the one that we're going to take a look at here is this one named Refill Water. So we'll jump in here and take a look. We have our name, Refill Water. We have the machine that we want it to be keeping an eye on, and that's going to be this tea kettle here. And we can see the trigger for this workflow. The trigger for this workflow is going to be a downtime. And when this downtime is categorized, it's the downtime reason refill water. So anytime somebody goes to this machine and they categorize this downtime in our operator interface, this trigger will be activated, and we'll take a look at our list of actions down here to see what actions we'll take. So down here at the bottom, we've got just the one webhook. We can add more actions if we wanted to, but just one webhook is enough to do what we need to do here today. A couple of properties here about this webhook. It's got a delay, which is just how long it's going to wait from that trigger being activated until it actually goes ahead and fires off that action. And this is the URL that we're going to send the payload to. So based on this unique event, when this downtime is triggered, we're going to take some context from that event, and we're going to send it to this little web service here. And what this is going to do is it's just going to authenticate that the webhook did in fact come from us, MachineMetrics. And then it's going to interact with a maintenance management service called Fix that we'll see in just a moment to create an event and a subsequent work order based off of the action that we categorize here today. That validation is done here by the secret. This is just a little tool so you can verify that this webhook did in fact come from MachineMetrics and it can be trusted. And we can go ahead and leave all this alone. So we'll take a look at Fix real quick here. Fix is a maintenance management service. We have a list of our assets here for that particular company. And here we see our tea kettle. So we have a list of events here. One of these is refill water. So this is the event that we're going to send from our webhook, and Fix will pick up this event that we send it, and it'll go ahead and create a work order so that the appropriate action can be taken on that machine. So let's go ahead and take a look. Those work orders are going to come in right here. Notice just the one so far, and we'll jump into our operator view over here. So this is a little preview of our operator dashboard. This would be on the tablet itself at the tea kettle machine. So maybe somebody notices that our kettle is out of water. We'll go ahead and split this downtime here to simulate categorizing a downtime. We'll say that this water needs to be refilled. We can see that our downtime was categorized. Our webhook should be firing. And in a moment here, we should have a new work order in Fix. Might just take a moment.
You might just need to navigate away from that scheduled maintenance page to the work orders back and forth. Oh, let's see.
Well, that's a little unfortunate. Let's try it and send one more there. Well, sorry about that. It's could be something the matter with our little Heroku deploy that's catching our event here.
Wonder of live demonstration.
We'll do it live.
Maybe give it a refresh there, see if that works, Paul. And if we can't get it to work, we'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, it might be an issue with Heroku in the middle there. We'll see if anything came through in the meantime. Well,
okay, well, why don't we move on to the next example?
There, yep. I'll hand it back over to Justin, where you can talk a little bit more about some of the further workflow automations available to us here.
Thanks, Paul. So now the example we'll talk about will be related to automating your quality processes. So if quality inspection is a regular part of your setup procedures, then you can automate this process. You can designate personnel, which can be notified as soon as inspection is required at the machine. So what we'll do is I'll kind of walk you through the same steps in creating the workflow, which we'll say quality, or we would call it first article inspection. Again, you can assign it to all machines or an individual machine. I think we had a question come in about the ability to assign it to different machine groups. That is a function that we plan on rolling out here in the near future. And so the trigger for this workflow would be when we enter a particular setup stage. So even outside of quality, if you have a setup person that needs to be informed, we can drive action that way as well. So what we do is we establish the setup stages within the MachineMetrics environment, select which stage we want to drive action around, and then create the workflow. And from the operator standpoint, when they go through each step of the setup, if they're to select the first article inspection we could then designate that communication going to the quality manager or whoever would be in charge of performing that inspection at the machine. So it's an automated communication, but also drives a workflow and allows operations to be streamlined around quality processes. Next, Cullen will be talking about how we automate data flow into different applications. Cullen, are you ready for us?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
All right. So yeah, let me just start sharing my screen, and I'm going to show you how sort of these workflows, and in particular the webhooks. Paul showed you how to put one together, and you've seen a couple of those being made. So I'm just really going to show you some of the other use cases that you can kind of have with this. And in particular, I'm going to be using them to connect to apps that are, I don't know, not full integrations like a CMMS, but maybe you could integrate into your daily processes or routines just to make things automate more things without having to be a huge process. And this can be extremely low or no code. I'm going to be using another app called Zapier, which you may have used, you might not have used, but it's basically used, very popular for connecting apps without any code. It basically can help you connect a bunch of its apps that are in its ecosystem that it's connected to, such as maybe Microsoft Teams, Gmail, things like that. And it can just automate these cool things between them so everything can talk to each other. So just to get things started, what I'm going to do is send a downtime event to a Google Sheet. So say you have a Google Sheet that you want to track every single downtime event that happens on a particular machine, or maybe a couple particular downtimes across all your machines. And instead of having to run a report every time, you just want them to populate into that sheet. Well, I've got a sheet set up here. You can see I've kind of got a couple downtime events going on here. And I am just going to go into the stamping press, go to the operator view, and then I'm going to categorize some planned maintenance. And just like that, I almost didn't switch back in time. You can catch the new planned maintenance appeared. So as more downtimes happen, you don't have to do anything once this is set up. You're going to be automatically pushing your data into your existing systems or any kind of reporting platforms you have. All right. So next I want to show you that you can do the same thing, but with an alarm. And you can automatically push notifications into other systems. And there it goes now. These are simulated machines. So I just triggered that alarm myself. Say high temperature. It could be anything. It can be any alarm. It's just meant to trigger something. And if I navigate into my messaging system that I'm using called Slack, it's a lot like Microsoft Teams. And it can be used to communicate with people internally. It can be a bunch of other things as well. And you can see here that now I have a new alert. CNC lathe triggered a high temperature alarm. And so you could use this to communicate with a team working on a particular project, maybe an entire department. You can push these into whatever kind of communication platforms you're already using, or if you're looking to integrate new ones, you can tie those directly into MachineMetrics and sort of drive this real-time reporting into your existing processes, help that communication, and make sure that everyone has the information they need in these existing systems and kind of using whatever system you want. Since we can connect to other apps like Zapier, there really isn't a limit to what you can do to connect and sort of drive these actions based on the data you're collecting from our machines. All right, well, that's what I have for my section of the demo. Justin, I'll hand it back to you.
Awesome, thanks, Colin. Next up, we have Jacob, who's going to be covering our capabilities around predictive tool failure.
Thanks, Justin.
Jacob, whenever you are ready.
Oh, am I sharing my screen? You want to just pull up the slides? I just have those to speak to.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can do that.
Thanks, Justin. All right, so MachineMetrics is really doing a lot of special things with workflows and automations in general. And one of the things that we're doing that really no one else in the industry is doing is using our unique access to high frequency data without using additional sensors on machine equipment to detect tool wear to the point where we can predict failures before they occur, saving you significant downtime or even larger expense due to something crashing and breaking a number of other tools or putting the machine out of alignment. And as you can see from this image here, if you're looking at low frequency data, something that's captured more on the level of 1 sample per second, it's very sparse. What you're seeing here is actually data captured at a kilohertz, so 1,000 samples every second. And we're able to see not only the variation, but also the vibration and get other characteristics out of that high frequency data, where we can start to separate the signal from just looking at, for example, maybe we're capturing the load on the spindle. We can actually start to discern what effects within that signal are related to the spindle versus the actual cutting action being taken by the tool against the material. And we can use that analysis to come up with some really impressive solutions for preventing crashes. At one of our customer sites, we have more than 99% accuracy in detecting a failure minutes before, or even 40 minutes in some cases, before the actual failure occurs. This is allowing our customers to save thousands, tens of thousands of dollars per month per asset in some cases. So not even taking into account the amount of downtime that it's preventing. So while this technology isn't technically part of our workflows, it can be tied into them. So you can use this functionality. It's an automation. It doesn't actually fit into what we are in our product called workflows, but it is in a sense a workflow where we detect this anomaly occurring and we send a signal to the machine indicating that it should put itself into a feed hold. And it does, it stops the machine. And you can also use that, you can tie that action into our workflows by sending somebody a notification. So the example would be you're running lights out, nobody's there, the machine stops itself at the point of a failure. That's good, but it would be better if you sent somebody a notification, they came out on site, got the tool replaced and continued on. Move to the next slide. And then as far as quality goes, you can actually start to see not only that a tool is failing, but even if it has the most finite chip or some imperfection in that tool, it starts to create parts that are out of spec that you could be producing part after part after part that fails. But we can detect that long before you would if you're just running things in a continuous fashion and stop the machine in that scenario too, or just send a notification so that somebody can correct the issue as quickly as possible. Justin.
All right, Jacob, thanks for sharing. So now we're kind of toward the tail end of our webinar, but we would like to open it up for questions. So feel free to use that Q&A box down at the bottom of your screen. Give you guys some time to ask if you'd like.
See some questions coming in. One of them was the tooling optimization. Does that come standard or is that an add-on to your workflows? At least right now, this does involve some collaboration. One of the first steps to creating a proper tool detection algorithm is understanding when the failures occur and capturing high frequency data around that so we can analyze it. So there's a collaboration between your operators and our system so that they can mark when the machine goes down, what the cause was, and that prompts our data science team to really go in and understand what the leading indicators are for those types of failures. There is an add-on cost to that, but please reach out. We're happy to talk more.
Yeah, it looks like the next question came around cost for costing out. A project. You really need to get in touch with your MachineMetrics sales representative for your specific scope of work. So we can follow up with you after today's webinar to get you information on that.
Another question about the customizability of those alert texts. Yes, they are. Yes, you can really type in whatever you'd like to appear at the beginning of that message, and then we can add the context beyond that. But also with the added capabilities of webhooks, you can really take that to a completely different level, another level. And when you get the context, you can actually use the number of other APIs that we have available to get even more context. Maybe you want to capture the certain information about the 10 minutes that preceded the event and include some text that speaks to that in the message. You can do that too with our webhooks and our APIs. I don't think I understood the question about toolpath deviation and predictive. I don't know if you can clarify that, but. Can move on for now.
I think he's asking specifically about condition monitoring, Jacob, and driving workflows around that.
Got it. Yeah, so you absolutely can. So we have a technology that lives on our edge device called adapter scripts, and it allows you to take the low frequency data that we capture and transform it. Low frequency in our case is about 1 hertz. So we're capturing all data points on every piece of equipment at about 1 sample per second. So it is actually really high fidelity. It's just not as high fidelity for something that requires a half second response time in preventing the tool from breaking. But in the case of things like path deviation, maybe you can leverage the 1 hertz data, and our adapter scripts allow you to transform that data into something that even has more meaning. One example of that, this might not exactly be what you're referring to here in this question, but a very simple example would be to create an alarm related to the feed rate of the machine dropping below 100. And then that alarm could be used to send a notification to somebody. It's a significant cause for slower performance at our customer sites, or in some cases, operators will tune the machine up to 120 or higher % at their feed rate, and that will cause scrap parts. So making sure that there's good communication around feed rates being set properly is one use case for workflows in MachineMetrics.
So a question just came in for workflows. Is there a list of triggers and actions available?
It might be good to reach out some basic ones that there's more than this, but there's obviously whether the machine is running or not, whether a certain downtime reason was categorized or not, whether an anomaly was detected, whether the machine is in a certain alarm state. There's a number of them, whether the operator has moved the job into a particular stage. So if you go from first piece inspection or setup to first piece inspection, you can trigger on those as well. Or if a setup has exceeded the expected, the intended setup duration, you can trigger off of those as well. So there are a number of these, and the number of triggers that we're adding is growing as well.
Yeah, and we can drive action around idle machines as well, if that's something that's of interest to you. But we do pre-populate that trigger field with options to select from. So you don't have to come up with them necessarily on your own. When we're driving action around downtime categorization, that would be driven by your downtime categories, which are custom to whatever your needs around your machine operations would be.
I have a question here. What type of machines can MachineMetrics connect to?
Yeah, so really, our platform makes it easy to connect to almost any type of machine. The difference being obviously the richness of data that we can collect and transform. With modern machine control technology, it's as plug and play as it can get. And in those cases, we could be populating up to hundreds of different data points on those machines. But we're not limited by just CNC equipment. We have customers who have connected all different types of machines, machine assets, automation. including robots. So one question that we like to ask our customers from time to time is, which one of these workflows do you think would be most valuable to your operations? Which would, drive the most value to the bottom line for you? Something to think about. Feel free to drop it in the chat if you have some ideas around that. Yeah, and if you guys have specific questions around the types of machines we can connect, definitely feel free to reach out to us directly.
There's a question, can you retrofit old conventional machines? Yes, absolutely. So we obviously connect to a number of modern protocols and specific machine control communication mechanisms. But in addition to that, we also support a sensor module that you can really connect anything you want. The most common thing that we do to get somebody up and running is we'll use what's called a current transducer. It's what measures basically the power that's going to something. And the best thing that you can maybe measure that current going to maybe is the spindle. So if the spindle is turning, we know the machine is running. And we can use patterns in that signal to recognize when parts are produced or any other number of things. We can also go off of relays on the controls as well to capture different outputs. So it's certainly not limited to modern machines. We have machines connected today that are from the 50s, and they're still humming along, and we're able to provide performance gains there as well.
So we do have a question around technical integration and what to do if you might not have the resources available to pull that off. The question was, do we offer assistance, or do we have any recommended consultants that we work with? So a wide majority of our customer base does choose to connect machines using their own resources, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're on your own. We have support that we can provide remotely, and we also have staff that is able to come on site and assist with your machine integration if required. So we can scope the project according to your needs, whether that's on the resource side in person or through remote support. So another question came in, is there a control platform that MachineMetrics can connect to that doesn't require sensors? There's actually many different platforms that we connect to. We refer to that as plug and play integration. So what that means is if you have a modern day intelligent control, like one that's FANUC focus based, for instance, once we establish a connection to that control, those data points are mapped automatically. That also exists in cases where you might be running MT Connect and some others.
We also do connect to a number of other industry protocols like Ethernet IP, Modbus TCP, OPC UA, that allow us to really capture a large portion of manufacturing equipment. think the questions are starting to wrap up.
All right, guys. Well, we appreciate all the great questions today. And again, if you have others that we weren't able to address here live, feel free to reach out, and we'll get to you following the webinar. So just wrapping up, we'd like to announce our upcoming webinar taking place on January 21st at 2 o'clock Eastern. The subject will be the state of the industry, which will be a review of 2020 by the numbers. So sign up now if you guys would like to participate in that. And thanks again, everyone, for joining today. And we hope that you have a happy and safe holiday season. Thanks very much for joining, guys. You all take care.